therapists were telling me there was something wrong with me. I kind of took a step back. I was like, I think there's something wrong with you because you're labeling me, and I'm doing all these things to make my life better, and you keep telling me why it shouldn't be. And I just noticed it wasn't helping. But what did help every time was that I focused on the future and I changed my behavior. And I didn't allow anything that's ever happened to me in the past to be a reason of why I behave a certain way today.
I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can so that for the future, that the past is just the past, and it's so far behind me that all I can see is the future. Can you talk about that mentality?
I heard this statistic at one point where it was like over 50% of the past that we remember is inaccurate. And once I heard that, this light bulb went off for me, because I think I was probably 20 or 21 at the time, and people were always telling me, you've got to resolve things with your mom. You've got to figure out these things. And I'd been to therapy in and out and talked to plenty of therapists and life coaches, all these things about my mother, right? And I constantly felt like it was just reopening something that I would never find a resolution to. It's like, it was shitty. She became an alcoholic. She didn't mean for it to make my life worse, but it did by consequence. Do I think she's a bad person? No. Do I think that she, created bad conditions for me? Yes. And I just realized that the more that I focused on working on my future, the less the past had power over me and the less relevant it was to my life. And especially knowing that 50% of it could be made up, I'm like, what if it was better? What if it was worse? I don't know. This is my memory and my recollection, but I don't want to live my life beholden to a past that might not even be true. It's just my perspective. That to me was the main thought. It's like, why would I let that control me when, our minds do very powerful things? It's like, I don't know in what direction it was amplified, but right now, allowing me to think that things were worse than they were, how's that gonna help me make a better future? It's not. And so I just went heads down and I'm gonna create such a compelling life for myself that I don't even think about the past. And that's worked for me for the last 13 years.
I hope you're enjoying this Leila Hormozi video. It was sponsored by mulliganbrothers.com, where site-wide right now is buy one, get one free across all t-shirts. The mission behind the clothing brand has always been to inspire change and to be able to deliver this content on YouTube for free. This support from you guys allows us to do exactly that and get our film crew out to Las Vegas to be able to go and film Leila Hormozi. So all t-shirts are buy one, get one free if you use code SALE at checkout. That includes the all new symbol designs, the Inspire Change t-shirts, the classics. Absolutely every single t-shirt in any combination is buy one, get one free using code SALE. Also, everything across the site is now discounted, from the hoodies to the posters, and yes, including the journal with some heavy discounts with a link in the description. Once this is gone, guys, it is gone. Thank you for supporting projects like this, and we promise to continue to deliver great motivation and great inspiration. Let's jump back into the video. Around 7 years ago, just before Mulligan Brothers started, the whole YouTube stuff, my son passed away, and my way of dealing with it was to do this. And I head down, was obsessed, still am, but was obsessed. But I would say 2 years ago, there was a point where everybody around me was telling me how it wasn't great for me, I need to go to therapy, all this kind of stuff. So I did, and it felt like I was just churning up, and for a good year, churning up this thing and bringing all this this stuff back. Now I'm back heads down again, and I'm focusing forward and just cracking on, and I feel better than ever. But the opinion of people with that kind of mentality is that it's just wrong. It's not the right way to do it. I'd love to hear more on it.
I mean, there's a lot that we could go into there, which is it's also there's great waitresses and there's awful waitresses. There are great therapists, there are awful therapists. How does the person in the room know to judge? Oftentimes they don't. And so I think a lot of people fall prey to people that create dependency on them. I actually think in studying what I have, which is in studying some of the best, psychiatrists and therapists from 100 years ago, most therapy should only take 6 to 8 weeks. And I think that we created a culture in which people are dependent on therapy so that they can keep coming back and they get recurring revenue. So I look at it more as that's a great business model for a therapist. Is that good for the patient? Probably not. Also, through a lot of the things that I studied, I just realized there is also self-therapy, which is that you can therapize yourself. Now, who have studied the most for this has probably been Albert Ellis. I've read like all of his books. But I think that what I've realized is that you can change how you behave despite whatever happened to you. And so most people say, let me figure out why this happened. Like, why are you so upset about your son? Of course you're fucking upset. What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, of course I'm upset that I'm about, what the hell? Like, that's normal and okay to be that upset. But is there anything that can be done about it? It's like, no. And then I think that people tend to demonize maybe the way that we feel afterwards and say that there must be something wrong with you for feeling depressed. That's baffling to me that people would think that there's anything wrong with feeling depressed or anxious or, you know, like you have something wrong with you. Because I think when we feel like the true depths of negative human emotions, we do wonder if there's something wrong with us. But that's just life. And I think that we live in a society where people label it as there's something wrong with you. And I think I actually fell prey to it for a few years where therapists were telling me there was something wrong with me. And I, you know, after that, I kind of took a step back. I was like, I think there's something fucking wrong with you because you're labeling me, you know, and I'm doing all these things to make my life better. And you keep telling me why it shouldn't be and why it's okay to feel this way and keep reopening these wounds. And I just noticed it wasn't helping. But what did help every time was that I focused on the future and I changed my behavior. And I didn't allow anything that's ever happened to me in the past to be a reason of why I behave a certain way today. You know, I could easily say, oh, I don't get close to people. I've got walls up because my mother was an alcoholic and so I'm a little colder. What? I'm a fully functioning 31-year-old adult. I can decide to act in a more productive way in my relationships. So what happened when I was 14 should affect what happens when I'm 31? Like, what happens is that an event occurs, and then oftentimes to deal with that event, we take on unproductive behaviors, and then we don't stop, and they go on for 10 or 15 years. And then we say, well, in order to change this unproductive behavior, I should figure out why this thing happened to me and put reason behind it. And I've just found that, what if I just changed the unproductive behavior, and it didn't matter why I was doing it, but I changed it anyways? And so I think that's the kind of approach that I've taken to things, is I look at it very much like I am not in control always. We don't choose the thoughts and feelings we have some days. Like, we can choose to focus on things, but can I choose if it pops up in my head? Like, no. I can observe it and try not to focus on it. But what I can do is that despite what I think and despite what I feel, I can change my behavior. And that has been like the one thing that has brought me relief in everything, because I can feel as bad as I want. I don't have to act that way. And I think that I've gotten a lot of relief from that. But I don't know, for me, it felt very unproductive talking about all of those things, because I think that a lot of them also are predicated on, I think that, imagine this, right? Somebody dies and you live in one of the, you know, Western or Eastern Indian countries, right? They celebrate death and they're happy and they're overjoyed that those people are dead. And then they move on and go on with their lives. Here, we're told it's a bad thing and we should be sad. And therefore people grieve for months, years, decades. And so when I hear that, I think to myself, it's all, in a way, expectations, societal norms, and almost the placebo effect. You know, I remember when I broke up with a boyfriend and then I moved across the United States to California, and a therapist told me, she was probably the only good therapist I've ever had, I said, I just can't get over him. I'm just so sad. And she's like, well, how long has it been? And I said, 2 months. She's like, how long were you together? 14 months. She's like, why are you still sad? And I was like, well, I heard it takes like half the time you've been with somebody to get over them. She said, I think that's bullshit, Leila. And in the moment, I was stunned that a therapist would say that's bullshit. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, it takes however long you decided to take. Start living your life again. And that frame I've applied to pretty much everything, because I have just found that continuing to think about things that don't make our lives better just tend not to help us.
I love this mentality from Leila Hormozi about working for the future and not living in the past. Her way of articulating is absolutely amazing, and so thankful that she would share such an intimate story with us. Go follow Leila with the link down below where you can find out more from her on her social media pages. And also, if you want to support us, please become a channel member with the join button down below for different and exclusive benefits. And also, this video was sponsored by mulliganbrothers.com, the end of summer sale. Use code SALE for buy one, get one free on all t-shirts, including the Inspire Change t-shirts, Hardest Worker in the Room, Rise and Grind, the new Inspire Change symbol t-shirts, all buy one, get one free while stocks last. And also the Not a Journal and the Memento Mori poster are also heavily discounted with the link in the description. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed and productive day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.